I know that we talked about the word of suffering kind of like came
Yeah.
into mind a couple of times in our conversations, and and I think living for me, living in a world that in this world that we're in a westernized framework, convenience is a massive thing,
Mm,
and always looking for that convenience and the easiest way to do things. But having that approach almost kind of hinders our growth because we know that challenge,
mm,
if we're not challenged, and suffering is a normal part of growth. So like, I think, yeah, for our people to understand that um,
mm,
even though we're in these conditions that we can't control, but there is growth. There's the opportunity of growth in there, which I think is the underlying thing that we want to talk about as well and push.
yes. Yeah.
And I know Phil can elaborate more, but I think it's important for us to understand that suffering is a part of the growth, just like a plant. When the stem grows and then the shoots, the leaves, and then it blossoms, it stretches, it's pulled. When you for in order for us to stay physically healthy, we got to go for walks, we got to get up, we got to
Mm,
move. It's a physical thing, if we
mm,
want to improve our lives, and part of that is kind of like in the suffering. If we look at the suffering as growth,
Mm.
it's a good thing, you
yep.
know.
And yeah, that's awesome, man. Because you've reminded me of there's a. I sometimes talk about it with groups in terms of where we're comfortable,
Mm,
you know, and then when we have to move outside of our comfort, there's a there's another circle of that's going to stretch us a bit, you know. But the stretch is really important. We, if we don't stretch, we don't move into new places and spaces and growth, right?
mm,
But the stretch can turn into anxiety, and anxiety can become panic. So the art of stretching means that if we're challenged in life, it's about finding or identifying, because we will be challenged. Life is a challenge. What are the right supports that we need? So we do this thing called the high challenge, high support quadrant.
oh yes, yeah,
Hey,
Oh, yep,
yeah,
so
yep.
you get low challenge, low support, etc. And it's quite useful because basically it says for us to meet the desires of our heart in terms of flourishing in life, which isn't having a life that's problem free. It's not about that. It's about the ability and the confidence to be able to meet the challenge, you know. And the bigger the challenge, the bigger the support we need.
that's
Basically,
right.
it's all about the right supports,
Mm,
you know. So
Mm,
and that's right. Like with counselling, it's 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 facilitating the conversation so that a person can identify clearly what the challenge is and what the things that will support them to to get through the pain. You know, my thing around pain, man, is this: that we're going to have it when we do have it, and a lot of it's unnecessary, and then some of it is um, um, some of it we we don't need to put up with. Yeah, but it's not a question of whether we suffer or not in this life. So the idea of happiness being the absence of suffering isn't a good one, you know, because
mm.
that's just that's a sense of I just want pleasure in life. I don't want to. No, no. The whole
That's not realistic, eh? That's not
realistic,
realistic, bro. Mm.
yeah, and the whole
And you
reason,
can see how consumerism is like based on that, eh, bro? It pulls people in.
yeah,
You can have everything you want. If you can have this image if you buy these shoes, or if you drive this car, you're gonna, it's like the pleasure thing, eh? But in reality, you're kind of getting sucked into this thing, which leads into a downward spiral, and actually we forget the growth side. I know it's a big generalization, but just thinking about the philosophy and how we can take that on
yeah,
subconsciously without knowing what's taking place, if that makes sense.
yeah. The post-traumatic growth is PTG is you know how people talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, the positive psychology approach to that is post-traumatic growth, how people have grown. And Viktor Frankl, coming back to Viktor Frankl, he was the psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
Comes back to that. So the final thing I say, bro, is
Yep.
Maybe we could have this at our next chat. It's more about making this suffering meaningful. Suffering alone is the worst thing. Suffering alone. If we can share the suffering, it takes away a lot of the hurt.
Yeah. I love that, bro. I reckon that'll be an awesome topic if we can unpack what healthy suffering is and what unnecessary suffering that we cause because of our own habitual attitude and learned conditioning. The differences between the two.